Hello, my name is Michael Hornsby.
My name is Reverend Kristen Green.
My name is Marion Key.
My name is Michelle Venegas Matula.
I'm Nina Litton.
I am Sherman Logan.
I'm the Reverend Walter LaFleur.
My name is Yasko Chanoki Endo.
My name is Angeline C. Jackson.
Hello, it's Carlton E. Smith.
I'm Reverend Claudia Jimenez.
My name is Clint Tawes.
My name is Camille Hatton.
I'm Reverend Dr. John Gilmore, also known as Prakash.
Hello, my name is Maya Wade Harper.
I'm Sherry Weston B. Hill.
Adele Smith Penniman.
My name is Justin Almeida.
I'm Reverend Duncan Teague.
My name is Ade Amakraba.
DRUUMM sustains me by keeping me connected.
By creating community.
By providing a place of healing and comfort and compassion.
By providing fellowship.
By providing a spiritual community where I can bring all of myself.
By holding safe space.
DRUUMM sustains me with hope. I light this flame, a symbol of our faith.
We light this chalice.
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 I'm kind of curious. There's a ton of questions that Paula just posted, and I did want to delve a little bit deeper into our connections to Unitarian Universalism. And Abhi used the metaphor of a container, and I'm kind of wondering, how we feel our own personal relationships with the divine, with our own ancestors, integrate into Unitarian Universalism, and often, although not always, a more Western and white view of history and of the Unitarian ancestors that are lifted up, and the context of worship. Are our personal spiritual experiences things that we do at home and in private, or are they integrated and aligned with Unitarian Universalism in a way that we feel that movement of spirit also in UU spaces? I'm curious about that, and if that feels like a tension or a more seamless alignment. Maybe if you have an experience of a tension versus a time when it felt really aligned.
I never expected Unitarian Universalism to meet all of my spiritual needs. Like, I came understanding that it was not gonna happen. What I was always hoping for is enough space for me to bring some of that into it. And I found it in some ways, and it was great. It was helpful to be able to explore and to bring some of my own spirituality into Unitarian Universalism. It never felt like I always wanted more, of course, but in order for me to have more, I also needed more people who were craving it, who wanted it, I was surprised, for example, the times when I preached a more mystical sermon about the responses I would get from people, because I was told that there's like almost this assumption that almost everyone in Unitarian Universalism is an atheist or just don't want to hear anything about the divine. So I was surprised that every time I preach on those topics, people would come to me and talk to me and share their experiences and share their stories. And I just found it fascinating that we don't have, more of those conversations, because they do open up for rich connections. But I'm going to be honest, as a chaplain now, I feel a lot more freedom to express my spirituality in a space that is mostly Christian, but that I can say, I'm a UU, I'm a healer. I understand myself as a learning curandera, and this is what I bring, and I can speak about the things that are important to me, and I can, I have a freedom now. I feel a freedom So it's a freedom that comes from within, that from the outside, because when I go into patients' rooms, I have to pray in their language and talk, and just listen to what they need to say. So I think that I do wish, I always wished for more spaces in Unitarian Universalism where that kind of spirituality could just come fully alive. So maybe there is for me a sense of melancholy about what I feel it's not there yet.
I think for me, Unitarian Universalism I came into it with a lot of pain from my Christian past. And what I found is that Unitarian Universalism helped me in that healing process. And so when I first became UU, it was all that I needed. It helped me move to this place of reconciling that I could have a faith home as a queer person. That wasn't something that was taken from me, which is what I kind of felt like as someone who had grown up so connected to the church and then getting messages that I was not wanted, that I felt that a part of me had been taken from me. And Unitarian Universalism gave that back to me. And so in the very beginning, I was all in. And then as I kind of moved through that healing process, then I realized, okay, then what is missing? What am I needing? And I feel like the theology of Unitarian Universalism created a great space for me to live and grow and thrive within. But I wasn't catching all the time, hitting that personal piece, that personal connection. I didn't see myself represented in Unitarian Universalism, and what was talking about. And so that was really when I started the move more deeply into paganism, particularly looking into my African roots and finding how am I going to connect with my people and how does that spirituality is filled. And I'll say too, that I've had similar experiences with Tania. When the first congregation that I served, they told from the very beginning, we are a humanist congregation. There was one member particularly who constantly reminded me, as in the whole process of me this was a developmental congregation, and as I'm interviewing with the steering committee conversation, kept saying, we are a humanist congregation. So that was just a very clear identity piece. And I did a sermon about theology, and I kind of said, let's do some straw polls. And I had people raise their hands on different theological concepts, both from God, but also about who feels connected with nature. And so almost everybody, in the congregation raised their hand. What I started to realize was there was this pagan undercurrent or earth-centered undercurrent in the congregation. So I did a solstice celebration with them, and they were all excited about it, and that became something that they wanted as a tradition, because all of a sudden that brought something to them, a spirituality that they were in some ways hungering for, but hadn't had an opportunity or framework to actually express it. And I was able to give them in some ways some permission to be able to engage in that. And I tend to find that happens is that if I do something around the solstice or the equinox, that in UU congregations, that it opens this door of excitement and energy that it's so clear to me that there is that need of expression. And Unitarian Universalism hasn't done as well of a job creating openings for that sort of space because of this sense of idea of who we must be or who we think. I think if I said we're going to do a pagan ritual, they would have balked. But I said, so we're going to celebrate the equinox, or we're going to celebrate the solstice. And, and I actually introduced what, so we're going to play with ritual. And we don't have to do this all the time. And they actually engaged that, and it gave them an opening to try something that I think were hungering to do, but were afraid of. And that's something that I'm just very aware that sometimes it's a place that it's a tension that I feel, that I'm always ready to experience the spiritual, have the spiritual experience, like have it be palpable. And I feel the resistance in our youth congregations for that embodied experience of the spirit that I sometimes am longing for, and I find within my personal practice.
I've been both blessed and challenged in congregational ministry, having served congregations now for almost 25 years, where I find the blessing to be able to explore a way to not only engage more deeply, but also to reimagine the structures within the container that allow us to then embody our theological pluralism more with how we go about it, which is the tension I have found, where I am personally not fed on a regular basis by the practices and the rituals that we use within our congregations. I don't. And one of the things I made peace with early in my ministry is that not to be dependent on that within Unitarian Universalism. So I've continued to cultivate those outside the container of Unitarian Universalism. And that was a personal choice. And part of that has been also coming to terms and making peace with the awareness that I will never fully belong within Unitarian Universalism or within Hinduism for that matter. And sometimes, trying to find that interstitial space and finding that the struggle to belong is part of the journey toward belonging. And that's been an aspect that at least I have struggled with and at some level learned to hold and to also practice. So that's the blessing and the challenge. Shanaz's question about, how do we reconcile our own personal connection with the UU theology and the cultural dissonances? I think it's partly that. It's just learning to hold that. The beauty of it is Unitarian Universalism provides the space, even if we don't always practice it. It's there. And what I'm learning is how to claim that space. It's not something that I feel is given to me. In a way, it is something that I feel I need to claim and try to hold. It doesn't always work, but at least I don't feel like I am somehow beholden to others to be the ones to give me that freedom. And that, that in turn, has in some ways allowed me to go deeper within, to interrogate my own sense of how I hold that space. And in that context, in my own awareness of being Hindu, learning to pay more attention, be it to gender privilege or caste privilege, social privilege, role privilege, and heteronormative privilege. all these, I feel Unitarian Universalism provides me the space to hold, to see, to engage with. That is what I really cherish now. And in that context, to me, Unitarian Universalism provides me with opportunities to practice spirituality, seeing that as living my very ordinary life extraordinarily well.
Wow, I'm so appreciative. I feel like this conversation here and with everyone who's in the chat, that we're really talking about a Unitarian Universalism that is fulfilling its promise in a way that has so much room for diversity of expression and diversity of spiritual expression and language. And I'm hearing a lot of like openness, room, freedom, and what we as people of color bring and help our fellow UUs to experience. And I think that that's really exciting. I think I want to end in kind of asking again a more personal question, and one about spiritual practice and our own rituals. And that's, you know, we're living in incredibly difficult times and times of a lot of grief and stress and anxiety. And I wonder where all three of you turn to when you are feeling that hopelessness or weariness with the world, or with our work in congregations, or with just within our own lives, and what it looks like for you now to connect to spirit, and where you find spiritual direction, spiritual replenishment, what that looks like for you.
My spiritual practice is chanting, and chanting the mantras and the shlokas that my grandmother taught me, and others that I have learned, which I find to be very grounding, and provides me with the ability to then encounter the world. It doesn't last very long, but at least I'm grateful that it does for as long as it does when I do it. And that keeps me going. And in that is built in the practice of reflection and meditation. I don't pray. Still find it challenging to pray, but I chant, and that, I guess, in some ways puts me in that space of prayer. So that nourishes me, sustains me.
I do pray. And you know, the frequency changes depending on where my life is and what is going on. You know, my goal is to pray every morning. It doesn't always happen. And I've done a lot of work with my spiritual director and being okay with that. Letting go of perfection out of my own spiritual practice has been a lot of work that I've done over the years. But I tried to start my morning with just being a prayer to the ancestors, just asking for a blessing. Sometimes I have something that comes up to me that I want to ask, but sometimes I just want a blessing. Sometimes it is even just, I just want to know you. I want you in my life. It's an invitation in some ways. And also with the deities, it's an invitation to be a a part of me in responding to what is needed. Another practice that I have is going for a walk. That sometimes what I need is to leave the space and be out in the world and just feel the nature. And I am a block away from Lake Michigan. So I try to take a walk around the lake and near it and just be present to the energy of the earth and let that kind of seep into me. And sometimes if I'm really stressed, just going, even if I just went for a walk around the block, shifts and changes my entire energy to be able to get through the day. And when it's too cold to kind of walk, because Chicago gets cold. And so, you know, sometimes it might be I just need to walk around the house, you know, or sometimes I just need to dance or sing, you know, and just, I find just being connected to my body and letting that whatever comes out, whether it's a song or a dance or both, that those are ways that allows me to feel the spirit moving in my body, and helps kind of ground me in many ways.
I knew from the moment I completed my first chaplaincy unit that chaplaincy was a spiritual practice for me. And it is. Every time I am witnessing, I'm accompanying someone in their suffering and offering a prayer, or reading a poem, or finding a song, or giving them a hand massage or Reiki. You know, that to me is a spiritual practice. I do have a regular morning practice of prayer, and including the Gokai meditation, which is part of the Reiki tradition. I'm a Reiki practitioner too, so I do that. I talk to the world around me. I talk to animals. I talk to plants. I talk to trees all the time. That's also part of my practice. And when things are feeling too much stressful, I go to the ocean. I talk to Yemaya. For me, Yemaya is the spirit that is present in the ocean, the goddess of the ocean. And I do a cleansing. I use copal. I burn my copal. I make an offering, and then I walk around my house, cleansing the house, cleansing myself. And sometimes I offer the rattles, or I have a shell that I play as well. And so those, you know, those are my rituals for the most part. And yeah, they allow me to return to my center, to reground myself. I also meditate, you know, from time to time. But I think the speaking to people, to the world around me, whether it's the people, my patients, the staff, or the plants and the animals around me, you know, it's just a constant reminder of our connection to one another.
I am so personally grateful, and I think just everyone in this Zoom today has really felt deeply connected to all three of you. So thank you, Tania, Darrick, and Abhi, just for naming so many ways to connect to the world and to God, to spirit, and to ourselves. And I really feel like this conversation has been a blessing. Thank you.